Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning, and I'm so glad that you joined us this morning because we have a busy show, a lot to catch up on. Of course, we're going to be talking about redistricting, which is arguably the biggest story. We're going to tell you what our governor, Hochul, had to say. Also, a few things here about even maybe what Elise Stefanik had to say. We'll see if she weighed in on it. Also, we're going to talk about, I guess you could say, the branding issues that the Democrat Party is having. We have a couple of updates there. We just have a lot to cover. So let's get right to it. Oh, also, we're going to be talking with some of the cast of Big Fish. Big Fish is coming up on the 7th, 8th, and 9th. It's the Corning Payton Post Middle School Drama Club Community Musical. You'll see that it's kind of sponsored by Corning Payton Post Middle School Drama Club because it has cast members of all ages. That's going to be held at the Corning Payton Post High School Theater. We'll be talking with some of the cast later on in today's broadcast. But let's first start out with viewer comments and comments where we read them on the program, brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to stay at home. Comment from a viewer: did you know the DEC helpline for clerks trying to process a New York State hunting license is in a place in Texas? Yes, Texas. Sadly, that does not surprise me. So this is more for the individual who's working as maybe a town clerk trying to get a New York State hunting license processed. Interesting. It's been outsourced to Texas. That kind of speaks volumes. Comment from a different viewer. Morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Definition of a Democrat: one who has not yet grown up. Well, thank you very much. They are struggling. That pollster for CNN, Alton, is that his name? I don't have it right here in front of me. But he was saying that it's a disaster right now. Their messaging. It's messier, he said, than a hoarder's basement. They are struggling. You've got Cory Booker turning on his fellow Democrats, knowing full well that they're in the minority, so they can't accomplish what he wants them to accomplish, but still attacking them. They're not happy. A lot of pushback in his own party there. You've got people like Mamdani questioning whether he, AOC, the socialist wing of the party, is more of the leaders of the pack. We're going to talk about all of that and a few things here about Harris as well. First off, because we have a lot of breaking stories from yesterday, and I'm going to just jump all around before we get into redistricting, because in Texas, Governor Abbott has called for the arrest and actually has gotten warrants for the Democrats in Texas that fled. Ironically, many fled to Chicago, to Illinois, a state that is notorious historically for gerrymandering, for rigging the system, if you will. Kind of ironic there, but he's calling, and there are arrest warrants put out for those Democrats that fled so they would not have to vote on the redistricting, or not necessarily vote, but make it so there wasn't a quorum. So we'll talk about that as well. That's probably the biggest breaking story. That came in not too late last night, probably around 5 or 6, that he directed, Governor Abbott, that is, directed the arrests of those Texas Democrats. We'll mention that. But first up, this came in yesterday. The Justice Department is opening a federal grand jury investigation of former Obama administration officials who allegedly conspired to whip up a scandal about President Trump's purported links to Russia during the 2016 election campaign. The major legal development opens the door to criminal charges against prominent cabinet members who served then-President Barack Obama, including former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, former CIA Director John Brennan, and former FBI Director James Comey. It's not immediately clear whether the grand jury would be based in heavily Democrat Washington, D.C., or if it would be held elsewhere. Trump and current DNI Tulsi Gabbard have called for a federal probe into the early days of the Russia collusion probe called Crossfire Hurricane. Though the commander-in-chief himself has acknowledged that his predecessor likely is immune from prosecution due to that 2024 Supreme Court ruling on the criminality of official presidential acts. So it looks as if Obama, because of a fight that Donald Trump took to the Supreme Court, it looks like he may have saved him in this instance, Trump saving Obama in a odd way. The president has accused the former officials of a treasonous and seditious conspiracy to undermine his first-term agenda, which ultimately led to more than 2 years of leaky investigations before special counsel Robert Mueller turned up no evidence of collusion. And we know this is one of the ways they tried to gum up the works, just like they're trying to do now, whether it's Epstein, whether it's just the constant quote-unquote scandals. And I do have an update there, too, on the media and their handling of this. Terry Moran admitting yesterday that there is an anti-Trump bias, an inherent anti-Trump bias in the media. Nothing that surprises us, anybody that pays attention, but to some that may come as a surprise. I don't know how it could. If you watch 4 years of kid glove treatments, or that's not even a strong enough word, of the Biden administration, and now seeing what they're doing to Trump on a daily basis. But I'll continue. A White House spokesperson said following the compelling case outlined by DNI Tulsi Gabbard, which exposed clear and blatant weaponization by corrupt intelligence officials acting at the behest of the Democrat Party and likely former President Obama, the administration remains committed to conducting a thorough investigation. This effort aims to provide the American people with the truth about the extent to which former government officials worked to sabotage the Trump administration and undermine the will of the American people in a clear attempt to subvert our constitutional republic. Now, Fox News was the first to report the grand jury investigation, which faces significant hurdles due to statutes of limitation for certain offenses. Trump was criminally indicted twice by the Biden Justice Department and twice more by Democrat district attorneys as he sought a second non-consecutive term in the White House. And he has frequently suggested in recent days that he was too lenient with adversaries during his first term. Trump told Newsmax on Friday, quote, "I let Hillary Clinton off the hook. I let her off the hook for what? And then I come in and they did the same thing to me. The difference is they actually meant it, and they hurt a lot of people, and it was all a hoax. And now they have it in black and white. No, I think they should pay a price." So we'll be keeping, I know we've had people comment on this program, investigations and these type of things. We're all getting a little bit worn out by them. They're important, but at the end of the day, what will happen is the big question. Now, this is big, going to a grand jury. Now, an email released by Gabbard showed that Obama ordered an intelligence assessment that found Russia intervened to help Trump defeat Clinton. Though Gabbard said U.S. intercepts actually show that Russia expected Clinton to win and held back damaging material on her for later release. Some of that damaging material allegedly included an issue with some type of, I want to say it was a pain medication addiction, something like that. This is like proof, irrefutable proof that Obama was seditious, that Obama lied, was trying to lead a coup. And it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people. But Obama headed it up, Trump said. So there is your update. We'll keep you updated as well on anything that breaks from that in the ongoing days, months, who knows, even years. But the Justice Department is opening a federal grand jury investigation of those former Obama officials. Also breaking late last night, actually early this morning, just before, about an hour before we went on the air, this crossed my desk, trying to get you the most up-to-date information. The National Park announced late yesterday that it will be restoring and reinstating a statue of Confederate General Albert Pike. Quote, the National Park Service announced today that it will restore and reinstall the bronze statue of Albert Pike, which was toppled and vandalized during riots in June of 2020. The announcement reads, the restoration aligns with federal responsibilities under historic preservation law, as well as recent executive orders to beautify the nation's capital and reinstate pre-existing statutes, it's added. On June 19, 2020, also known as Juneteenth, the day that recognizes the end of slavery in the United States, protesters toppled the statue of Pike and set it on fire. Pike, who was a Confederate general in the Civil War, also served as an Associate Justice of the Arkansas Supreme Court. The announcement pointed to President Donald Trump's executive orders on making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful, and restoring restoring truth and sanity to American history. The order calls for the protection of American monuments, preservation of American history and heritage, and combating the revisionist movement. In a statement to Fox News, White House official Lindsey Halligan said, thank you to the National Park Service for announcing the restoration of the Albert Pike statue after it was unlawfully toppled and vandalized. Erected in 1901 and funded entirely by private Masonic organizations, the statue stood for over a century as a tribute to Pike's contribution as a scholar and Masonic leader. Such actions align with President Trump's executive order, which calls for reinstating monuments removed under ideological pressure. A lot of that was during the Black Lives Matter protests, if you recall. And it's encouraging to see our National Park Service stand up for historical preservation, due process, and the rule of law, said Halligan. All right. Man, how about that for a couple major breaking stories? Also, it is being reported that Netanyahu approved a plan to fully occupy the Gaza Strip and force Hamas to release hostages. This comes after that very disturbing video of a hostage looking emaciated, very, very skinny, sickly so. What is being assumed is him digging his own grave. We'll talk about that when we come back. Quick, I know we talked about it a little bit yesterday. We've got about 3 or 4 quick things to get to, but then we definitely have to get into the redistricting because that is a major story. And we have a lot to cover. We got special guests coming in from Big Fish. We're just getting warmed up. And look at all these waves already. 10 minutes in, almost a wave a minute, almost. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. As always, we thank you for joining us. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. By the way, this section of our program where we read viewer comments. It's brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund. Okay. Mark writes in, I see there is representatives heading to Russia for talks before the Trump deadline. We'll see where that unfolds. Thank you for that, Mark. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Most of us already know what our governor thought about us, but she clearly laid it right out there, didn't she? She sure did. We're going to talk about the redistricting, and I guess the only way you could respond, or Stefanik, you could describe her response was fiery, was wow. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Look at all these waves coming. Thank you. But quickly, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has decided to order a full military occupation of the Gaza Strip to force Hamas to free the hostages, according to local reports there. This coming out late yesterday. The expansion of the war would see the military, which already controlled about 75% of Gaza, take over the remaining areas and conduct operations where the hostages are believed to be held. The move was reportedly made without the input of the Israeli military chief of staff, Ilah Zamir, with Netanyahu instructing him to fall in line or resign, according to an internal memo that was sent out. The decision to escalate the 21-month war comes despite calls from within Israel and around the world to find a diplomatic end to the fighting. But when you see the 24-year-old hostage digging his own grave, Netanyahu saying that the diplomatic avenue is not successful. Senior Israeli officials who discussed the occupation with Netanyahu believe that Hamas will not free the remaining 50 hostages without being forced to surrender. That view has put pressure on Netanyahu and his cabinet following the recent release of Hamas propaganda videos showing emaciated hostages suffering and begging for food and water inside the terror group's tunnels. Quote, if we do not act now, the hostages will die of hunger and Gaza will remain under Hamas's control, the official said. The move to occupy all of Gaza would go against Israeli Defense Forces' previous assessment, opposing such a plan due to the realities of war and possible harm to the remaining hostages, 20 of whom are believed to be living. The Israeli army has warned that a full occupation of Gaza, including military presence in crowded civilian areas and the few cities spared from the fighting, would take years to sift through and locate Hamas's remaining cells. Such action could also endanger the lives of the hostages, according to family members, with reports going around earlier this month that Hamas sent an order to its members to kill any captives in their custody if Israeli soldiers are closing in on them. That is where we are at this morning. As far as I know, I don't know. I don't see where the president has weighed in on this. Now, we do know that Trump's envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, said the U.S. and Israel were close to a very, very good plan to end the war in Gaza and free the remaining hostages on Sunday. Witkoff did not elaborate on what the new plan was, nor is it clear if he was referring to Netanyahu's plan to expand the war. We also learned that in a historical first, the U.S. House Speaker, Representative Mike Johnson, visited the West Bank. He arrived in the West Bank alongside members of Congress and U.S. ambassador, meeting with local authorities. He said, "It's a great honor for me to be the most senior figure to officially cross the green line." This is interesting. U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson arrived yesterday in the West Bank as part of its official visit to the area, along with U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee and a delegation of members of Congress. This marks the first time a sitting U.S. Speaker of the House has visited the West Bank. The visit was initiated by the Yesha Council Settler Lobby in coordination with the U.S. Israel Education Association, a conservative pro-Israel advocacy group. The trip was not an official congressional delegation and was designated as a private trip, according to Axios. Participating in the delegation were Representative Mike McCall from Texas, Nathaniel Moran from Texas, Michael Cloud from Texas, and Claudia Tenney from right here in New York, as well as Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and the head of the sponsoring organization, Heather Johnston. Speaker Johnson, saying, "Judea and Samaria are Israel's front lines. The Bible teaches that the hills of Judea and Samaria were promised to the Jewish people and belong to you by right. The world may not see it that way, but we do. I want to thank you, the leaders of the Yesha Council, for your leadership and courage during these challenging times. May God bless you and all the people of Israel." So just tying those in. All right, we have a couple of stories. There are absolutely, positively no way to segue into either of these. But President Trump weighed in again on the, I don't even know, can you call it controversy surrounding that Sydney Sweeney ad campaign with American Eagle, which, by the way, whatever you think of that commercial, whatever you think of the people that are outraged by the commercials, calling it some type of Nazi propaganda, even J.D. Vance saying, if you want to keep calling people that find Sydney Sweeney attractive a Nazi, go for it. That's probably not a winning message. But from a PR standpoint, do you realize how much free media American Eagle got? Okay, so they run the ad. There's a cost to that, of course. But think of how many times you've seen the ad, whether it's on websites because of articles, or whether you've seen it on the news or various, I'm assuming, late night programs. They are getting earned media, as it's called, and they're getting a lot of it. And now their stock continues to grow because of this coverage, and because Donald Trump weighed in on it in a positive way. He told reporters on Sunday, when it was released that Sydney Sweeney is a registered Republican, he said, "Oh, she's a Republican. I love the ad. It's a great ad." He took to Truth Social yesterday saying, "Sydney Sweeney, a registered Republican, has the hottest ad out there. It's for American Eagle, and the jeans are flying off the shelves. Go get them, Sydney." He then slammed Jaguar for a stupid and seriously woke advertisement, and woke singer Taylor Swift. She was booed out of the Super Bowl and became no longer hot. The tide has seriously turned. Being woke is for losers. Being Republicans is what you want to be. Now, to his point, and you've heard me make this argument on the program before, that if you really wanted to be rock and roll, right, or punk, you would have to be a Republican. Because you have the kind of the rock and roll image. All of those people have fallen in line to this woke culture of the constantly protesting, constantly being aggrieved. And is that fighting the man? Is that fighting authority? No, of course not. It's the Republican that has actually become the kind of the punk rocker, if you will. So I had no way to segue between any of these stories, but I'm trying. We are going to talk when we come back after our next break. We're going to dive into the really big issue of the day, and that's, of course, the redistricting. But some of these were just updates from past episodes I thought were worth mentioning. And here's another one. Tesla has handed its chief executive, Elon Musk, almost $30 billion in stocks as kind of an incentive for him to focus and take greater control of the company. So Mr. Musk was awarded 96 million shares valued at roughly $29 billion as part of an interim 2025 award that will vest in 2 years' time. I don't know what that means. Tesla recorded net profits of around $7 billion last year. Should this remain steady over the next 2 years, the company's total earnings would be worth less than half of what it awarded Musk. The pay package comes amid a long-running dispute over a separate 2018 award for Musk. You know all of that. We've talked about that in the past. What this is basically saying is, please, focus. Get back to Tesla. Never mind your third party. Never mind getting involved in politics. You got a little too big for your britches on that one. You got over your skis a little bit. Let's rein it back in and do what you do best. During an investors call last month, Musk said, "I think my control over Tesla should be enough to ensure that it goes in a good direction, but not so much control that I can't be thrown out if I go crazy." One shareholder said in a letter, "Retaining Elon is more important than ever before. We are confident that this award will incentivize Elon to remain at Tesla and focus his unmatched leadership abilities on further creating shareholder value for Tesla shareholders and attracting and retaining talent at Tesla." The company added that the vast pay package was justified by a war for AI talent that has seen multi-billion-dollar acquisitions of companies and nine-figure cash compensation packages. Yeah, they're comparing some of these young AI programmers, and I could be using some of the wrong language here, comparing it almost to like a draft in the NFL or draft in the NBA with how much is at stake. Just kind of interesting. So $29 billion in stocks awarded to Mr. Musk, telling him, would you please focus on Tesla for a little bit. Whatever you think of Musk, whatever you think of the way that all kind of crumbled, I think it is safe to say, though he is a genius, I think politically not as much of a genius. If I'm being honest, I don't think I think he kind of bit off more than he could chew in some instances. But your thoughts on that? Your thoughts on what's happening with the redistricting? Governor Abbott directs the arrest of the Texas Democrats that fled. We also have our governor weighing in. We're going to talk about that. We have a lot about the Democratic Party in general, what they're looking to do. Oh, one thing, we'll get to it later on in the program in more detail. Your thoughts. I'm posing this question this morning. According to the Daily Mail out of the United Kingdom, they call it a surprising rival. I don't necessarily think it's surprising, but they're saying that Marco Rubio could be the rising star, and that could mean that it'll be a battle between him and J.D. Vance in 2028, saying that the rival to J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, as the next presidential candidate emerges as Republicans prepare for 2028. What are your thoughts on that? If you had to pick right now, who would you pick? On either party. If you're Democrat, tell us who you like right now for 2028. Just a little fun game to kick off the broadcast this morning. When I say kick off, we're already quite a ways through. It's 6:24. Stay with us. Redistricting. Not normally the hottest topic or, as they say in the news business, sexiest topic, but one that right now is definitely making the rounds. We're going to talk about it when we come back. This is Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. And one viewer writes in and says, I would go with Vance. I would pick Vance. Yes, I think Vance is doing a great job. But it is interesting. You knew Rubio's name was going to be thrown around because he's been doing so much in this administration. So the Daily Mail calls it a surprise. I don't think that's a surprise. But I think right now Vance would be the favorite, in my opinion. All right, let's talk about redistricting, shall we? Texas has issued arrest warrants for the Democrats who fled the state in order to block Donald Trump's efforts to implement new congressional districts favoring the Republican Party. Now, keep in mind, all of these are going to be written with a little bit of bias. I'm just trying to report kind of the facts. We are going to talk about what Governor Hochul had to say. More than 50 Democrat lawmakers boarded chartered planes on Sunday as they sought to deny the Texas House of Representatives the quorum required to vote on the redrawn congressional map. On Monday, the Texas House voted 85-6 to track down and arrest those lawmakers not present in the chamber, after which House Speaker Dustin Burrows signed civil warrants for each of the legislators, empowering state troopers to bring them to the state capitol. The warrants apply only within state lines, making them largely symbolic. However, they mark the latest escalation in a standoff between Democrats and Republicans. Now, earlier in the day, and we're going to talk more in depth about what Governor Hochul had to say, but she said that the president and his co-conspirator, Greg Abbott, had left the party no choice but to fight fire with fire. That this is war. She used that kind of rhetoric, saying that they were going to redraw after their gerrymandering. I think Politico put it perfectly. I think they said Kathy Hochul now supports gerrymandering. Um, I don't want to read this whole quote from Hochul because we're going to get to that in just a moment. But she did say, there's a phrase, you fight fire with fire. That is a true statement of how we're feeling right now. And I've said another overused but applicable phrase, all's fair in love and war. That's why I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible. We're already working on a legislative process, reviewing our legal strategies, and doing everything in our power to stop this brazen assault. So saying that quote unquote gerrymandering in Texas is wrong. So how do we combat it? By doing something that we just declared was wrong. Interesting. The Democrats, who Hochul actually described as brave patriots because they left their state to go to Illinois, ironically, Illinois known historically for its gerrymandering, for its cheating in elections. Just look at JFK, Nixon, but also just at the level of gerrymandering. Texas has 38 seats in the House. The Republican Party occupies 25 of those seats, and Democrats 12, with one seat vacant following the death of Sylvester Turner back in March. The delegation of Texas lawmakers who traveled to New York did not disclose where they would be traveling next, but said they would not be returning to Texas. So hopping all over the place, New York, Chicago. I wonder who's paying for that, footing the bill. Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General, said Democrats in the Texas House who try and run away like cowards should be found, arrested, and brought back to the Capitol immediately. Hochul said she had hosted the Texas Democrats at the governor's residence, where she fed them and took them to visit a home that Franklin D. Roosevelt once lived in for inspiration. Donald Trump came up with this scheme, perhaps with the help of AI. I don't know, Hochul said. She claimed that Republicans had redrawn the congressional maps on racist lines to disenfranchise Texas. This is what I mean about Hochul. Put aside what we're talking about here. Put aside the redistricting, put aside all that. She just does not have it. Her delivery, her style, what she ends up saying is so awkward, isn't it? Donald Trump came up with a scheme, perhaps with the help of AI. I don't know. Is that a joke that she's throwing out there? It's very difficult to watch because I think, as Elise Stefanik said last week, she believes that Governor Hochul is trying to position herself for a run in 2028, yes, for President of the United States. I think that Hochul believes she could do that. I think Hochul embarrassed herself when she spoke at the DNC. I think when she is put under the spotlight, she is not a great public speaker. She doesn't have that charm of other politicians. It is clear why she was never supposed to be governor. She was not to that level. She was put in that position because of Andrew Cuomo. So she and his, his resigning and his disgraced time as governor. So she moves up there, and you can tell she was not ready to hit that level. And she still is not there. A Texas state representative who was among those to travel to New York, Malaya Plaza, said the playing field has changed, not just for Democrats, but all Americans, and it's time to meet them on the new field. My constituent, this is Jolanda Jones, a Texas state representative, saying, my constituents demand that I be here, so you think I'm going to listen to Donald Trump and Greg Abbott and the Attorney General who can't treat his wife right and lies on documents? So I think he needs to worry about going to jail. All right, so there is kind of the basic update of where we're at with Abbott directing the arrest of the Texas Democrats. Kind of symbolic, but also sending a clear message. Texas House Democrats abandoned their duty to Texans. By fleeing the state, Texas House Democrats are holding hostage critical legislation to aid flood victims and advance property tax relief. There are consequences for dereliction of duty, said Governor Abbott. Speaker Dustin Burrows just issued a call of the Texas House and issued warrants to compel members to return to the chamber. To ensure compliance, I ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to locate, arrest, and return to the House chamber any member who's abandoned their duty in Texas. This order will remain in effect until all missing Democrat House members are accounted for and brought to the Texas Capitol. He also said, today I ordered the Texas Rangers to immediately investigate fleeing Texas House Democrats for potential bribery and any other potential legal violations connected to their refusal to appear for a quorum. conduct business, and cast votes. That investigation should extend to anyone who aided or abetted such potential crimes. So there is where we said this is not the first time. I remember bringing this up in the past on radio. It's not the first time the Democrats fled to not vote so there would not be a quorum. It's a tactic that they've used in the past. The media is going all in on this, suggesting that Trump is trying to rig the election. They are now election deniers. CNN, I think it was even Stephen Collinson, saying why Trump's Texas battle over the House could end up affecting every American. We're going to talk about that, what some of the people are saying about the quote-unquote stealing of the elections, and then we are going to dive into what our governor, Kathy Hochul, had to say, because it looks like California is now talking about redistricting as well. I see a lot of comments coming in. Keep them coming. I'll read them when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. First up, as for Rubio and Vance, I like them both. However, I actually know more about Rubio, of what Rubio is and has been doing, than what I hear about our vice president. But why not running mates? Sure, running mates is a possibility, but I think in that scenario it would have to be Vance at the top of the ticket. I think that would be odd to have someone run for VP under a different presidential candidate. But I think that would be an interesting Vance-Rubio. I think it'd be a tough team to beat. All right, keeping the comments coming in. Hochul also said she likes a good fight. I know, I can't think of the right word for it. It's just so awkward. War, fight. I mean, the rhetoric, first of all, is, I think, a little troubling, if I'm being honest. But put that to the side. Just her awkwardness and delivery. I mean, I know cringe is used way too much, but that's the feeling that you get when you see her, especially when she's off the cuff. Comment from a different viewer. In terms of redistricting, I don't see how much further New York can take this. But if there's a way Hochul will do her very best to find it. And oh, the outrage by the Democrats who are melting down. Why is it any different? Such a double standard. Yeah, look at the last time we had redistricting and the courts threw it out. It was so biased, so partisan for the Democrats in New York. So there's nothing new here. Democrats have a history of gerrymandering. Look at, as they keep pointing out, Illinois, Maryland, New York. Continuing though, Mark writes in, as far as the redistricting of Texas, I think the Dems that left should be fired. Remember, they work for us. And to further that, if we left our job, we would be fired. And Newsom and Hochul said they are going to fight fire with fire. And Greg Abbott says he's going to investigate if these Democrats that left used government funds to leave. And if they did, it would be a bribery. It would be bribery. Thank you for that. I kind of beat you to the punch on that last one. Mark apologized in the last segment. But yes, I think they should be investigated. See what kind of money was used for these private chartered flights to make their PR move. Now, as I mentioned, CNN's Stephen Collinson says in the short term, the House of Representatives, which Democrats hope to win back in the midterm election, could be at stake. Democrats currently need a net gain of 3 seats to take the majority. If the Texas plan passes without a response by another state, they will need 8. That could dash their goal of imposing a clamp on Trump's runaway presidency. Man, this thing drips with bias, but I got to continue. In the medium term, the Texas redistricting fight must be seen against the backdrop of a fraught political age. There are growing signs American democracy is fraying. Republicans will argue, correctly, that Democrats have mounted their own erroneous redistricting schemes in states such as Illinois and Maryland, and I would add New York, and elsewhere. But the instigator of the effort to make the Texas congressional delegation even redder was a president who already has a dark record of trying to subvert the verdict of voters. And in the longer term, the national political fight that has erupted over Texas looks almost certain to further erode the checks and balances of democracy, however it ends. If both parties now simply go all out in a national gerrymandering frenzy, they will produce a House of Representatives where it will be even more difficult for incumbents to lose their seats, and that will make meaningful political change even harder. But then I found this interesting, and this is why I brought this story to you. The Texas fight shows how much Democrats lost by ceding national power. If nothing else, the anger demonstrates the imperative of winning power and forging transformational change before the opportunity is lost. Republicans over the last decade have built an unassailable conservative Supreme Court majority that enabled GOP redistricting efforts based on race, included in Texas. And they've elected and supported a president with an expansive and constitutionally questionable thirst for imposing his own personal power that has shattered most political norms. Most presidents would not be as blatant as Trump is in trying to change the electoral battlefield. So basically what they're saying is they should have fought harder. Republicans sounding like Cory Booker here, that this is what happens when Democrats put in bad candidates like Kamala Harris. Didn't try to win, which I think is a little bit of misnomer. But the Democrats are also seeking to revive a national party pummeled by Trump, which lacks leadership and has left its supporters listless. Grassroots progressive have been pining for anyone to show some stomach for the fight, even though Democrats lack any power in Washington to meaningfully hurt the president. The Texas uproar also coincides with multiple examples of Trump's widening authoritarianism. And so again, admitting that Democrats have done the gerrymandering and now saying that because it's Trump, now it's authoritarianism. It's amazing how that works, isn't it? And as the Politico put it, Governor Hochul now is a supporter of gerrymandering. So it's different. And this is what happened the first go around with Trump. One example is the New York Times had a piece that basically journalistic ethics are no longer necessary because we dislike Trump that much, that we want to bring down Trump. So that's all that matters. It's very much the same here. It doesn't matter that we're quote unquote against gerrymandering, even though they're not. We have to do it because Trump. Everything is because of Trump. That's the excuse that they use. It's okay if we break the rules. It's okay if we destroy the norms because Trump, quote unquote, is breaking the rules. Trump is, quote unquote, breaking the norms, ending the norms, destroying the norms, whatever word they use. It's such, to that one viewer's point, it's just hypocrisy on full display. Simone Sanders from MSNBC said Attorney General Holder, I guess he must have been the guest. I mean, I think it's crazy. I think it's crazy that Texas lawmakers, Democrats, their only recourse to protect the voters in their states, the people in these districts that will be disenfranchised by these maps, is to just flee. I mean, I feel like that Vice President Harris said just last week about how she feels as though the system is broken. This is just set another example. I'm going to continue with what she had to say, but there's a really good piece, I think it was at the Post, but it may have been Fox, about how this whole idea of the system is broken is such a cheap excuse and such an easy path to fall down from Harris that it lacks any real intellectual property, but I will continue. And what's the recourse here? Because I think Donald Trump is trying to steal the election. Just like you said last time when he said, well, find me 11,780 votes, please. Secretary of State in Georgia. They were like, no. This time he's like, Greg Abbott, we need 5 seats. Not trying to have a Democratic House. And Greg Abbott's like, sure, this is brazen. And I don't feel like there are enough people who have hair on fire about it. If I had hair, I'd be on fire. All right, so trying to steal the election. We have a lot of election deniers. Hakeem Jeffries saying Texas redistricting is an effort to steal the midterm elections. The Texas governor is a cowardly fake bully. He was ordered by Donald Trump to convene a special session of the legislature in order to gerrymander the Texas congressional map and try to rig the midterm elections. This is cowardly. This is a cowardly move by Republicans in Texas, and I'm so appreciative of the courage, the character, and the conviction being shown by Texas Democrats from the legislature. Yeah, brave heroes for taking a chartered flight to Illinois and New York. Jeffries continued, Democrats are going to respond from coast to coast and at all points in between to this effort to steal the midterm elections. Republicans are on the run right now. Donald Trump is deeply unpopular. Their one big ugly bill, which is now law, is deeply unpopular. It rips away health care for millions of Americans, steals food from the mouths of children. All this is being done in terms of hurting everyday Americans so they can reward their billionaire donors. And they don't want to face the voters in a free and fair election. Coming from the party that literally tried to keep Trump off the ballot in his own primary, in the Republican primary, if you recall. And after that, with the lawfare, trying to keep him off the ballot. And they have the audacity to talk about, anyway, hypocrisy. Perhaps Donald Trump and Mike Johnson, Republicans in Washington and Texas, thought the Democrats would not respond. We're going to respond forcefully, aggressively, and relentlessly. So that's Hakeem Jeffries. We're going to tell you what Newsom had to say, what Hochul had to say, but we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. A viewer writes in, regarding redistricting, what amounts to the same thing as the Democrats opened our borders for political reasons. They bribed illegal aliens with free food, housing, and money so they would vote Democrat. And there was a Democrat that recently admitted that. I don't remember their name, but saying that, well, the reason that the borders were open is because of redistricting. But Gavin Newsom called it an all-out war, and that he would fight fire with fire as well. So these are the same terms. They must be getting their talking points and trading them with each other. Texas Democrats siding with Newsom. Newsom has to do something with this. Same with Hochul. If Hochul's actually, like Elise Stefanik's point, thinking about running in 2028, Newsom definitely is. Newsom was thinking about running in 2024. So he has to be seen as the face of the resistance. So he has to put out a pretty big look anyway, like he's putting on a big fight. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former governor, has vowed to fight Newsom's plan to redraw the congressional maps. Arnold Schwarzenegger is reportedly planning to challenge current California Governor Gavin Newsom's plan to redraw the state's congressional map. Daniel Ketchel, a spokesperson for Schwarzenegger, told Politico the actor feels that it's truly evil for politicians to take power from people, and that he called gerrymandering evil. While in office, Schwarzenegger was behind the pair of constitutional amendments that took the authority for drawing legislative districts away from lawmakers and gave it to an independent commission. He calls gerrymandering evil, and he means that. He thinks it's truly evil for politicians to take power from people. He's opposed to what Texas is doing, and he's opposed to the idea that California would race to the bottom to do the same thing. And they all are. If this is so wrong, what's happening in Texas, then why are they all chomping at the bit to do the same thing? Now, Texas Democrats have been ripped for this cartoonishly dumb, is what one person called it, strategy to flee to these blue states that are notorious for gerrymandering. Veteran Republican strategist Matt Whitlock argued that the decision by most of the Democrat lawmakers to head to Illinois, with a few others decamping in other blue states, New York and Massachusetts, was cartoonishly dumb. Tom Bevan, the Real Clear Politics co-founder and president, said the idea that Texas Democrats would flee to Illinois, a state where Democrats have abused gerrymandering to comical levels, is perfection. Republican Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt said to protest partisan gerrymandering, Texas Democrats are fleeing to Illinois. You can't make this up. Now, J.D. Pritzker, Illinois governor, welcoming them with open arms. Texas Democrats were left with no choice but to leave their home state to block a vote from taking place and protecting their constituents. This is a righteous act of courage. Wow, the rhetoric they use. So heroically brave, righteous act of courage. As it has been noted, the optics of Texas Democrats fleeing to Illinois, which has been called the Mecca of partisan gerrymandering. But Gavin Newsom saying two can play this game. We're going to tell you what Kathy Hochul had to say in the next segment. Also, we do have coming up a little bit later on in the program in the 7 o'clock hour, we're going to be talking with some of the cast members of Big Fish, which is opening on the 7th. So we'll tell you about that in the next hour. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, getting ready to wrap up our number one. We are going to tell you what Governor Hochul had to say about the redistricting in Texas and the response by Elise Stefanik. First, a comment from a viewer. And comments from viewers brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund. Resistance, courage, I call it disruption and childish, and therefore anti-democracy and anti-American. Thank you very much for that comment. So Gavin Newsom vowing to fight fire with fire. Hochul calling it an all-out war. She's ready for the fight. We recall last time there was redistricting here, it was thrown out by the courts because it was so partisan by the Democrats. So why they are now the champions? Well, as I mentioned, Politico saying Hochul embraces gerrymandering in New York. There's no other way to look at that. And we're going to be talking about it in the next hour. First, though, I want to bring this to your attention. I'm sure many of you are aware, and if you're not, mark your calendars for September 11th. But the First Responders Honor Park in Irwin and Gang Mills, they're having their annual recognition event on Thursday, September 11th at 11 a.m. I know that you're saying, Frank, why are you talking about that already? It's already August 5th. I know, where did the summer go? But the reason I bring it up a little bit earlier than perhaps I normally would is they're now accepting nominations for the annual First Responder of the Year from all agencies in the Tri-County area. So if you want to find out more or nominate someone for the annual First Responder of the Year award, and by the way, nominations should be submitted by August 22nd, so you don't have a lot of time. But if the individual is selected, they will be honored at the annual event at the First Responders Park on Forest Drive on September 11th. If you are interested in that, I have all the information here. Send me a message. Call, whatever the case may be. I will get you all the information of where you can send the nominations to, the email, and all that. I'll put it up on the screen in the future. I just want you to get your kind of your mind working around this and start thinking of people and it's for all first responder agencies in Chemung, Schuyler, and Steuben counties. So if you can think of anyone that should be nominated for the annual First Responder of the Year, just contact me and I will get you in touch with who you need to get in touch with. All right. Coming up in the next hour, we're going to be talking with cast members of Big Fish. That is a performance by the Corning Painted Post Middle School Drama Club community musical. So the community means that it's not just middle school students, it's everybody. It was open to everybody. You'll see that with our guests. It's going to be opening on August 7th at 7 p.m. There's a performance on August 8th at 7 p.m. and then a matinee on August 9th at 2 p.m. That'll be held at the Corning Painted Post High School Theater. We'll find out about that play. If you're not familiar with it, we'll find out more about the group in the 7 o'clock hour. But as I said, get your comments ready. What did you think of Governor Hochul vowing war? Or as Politico reports it, she now supports gerrymandering. I would say she supported before. Let's be honest. Look at how the court threw that out, twice? Well, definitely once, and even the second time it was still questionable. We're going to tell you what she had to say, and we're also going to tell you how Elise Stefanik responded. Also, a few things just about New York State in general. We are going to probably move on from redistricting, though you can always bring us back in and talk more about it if you'd like, because we have quite a few updates on the Democrat Party trying to get their message out there or trying to unify. It is not working. I think they're hoping this redistricting will unify them, but there's even some infighting there. And you have Cory Booker adding fuel to the flame of just that infighting, which I would say if you're a Democrat, you're saying we don't need this right now, Cory Booker. We know you want to be president. We know you've wanted to be president for the last 10 years, more since Obama was in office. Relax. Go after who you're supposed to go after, not your own party, and trying to make a name for yourself. He got a little bit of fame from his 25-hour and 5-minute speech that accomplished absolutely nothing. And I know now he's trying to sell a book on it. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, but very interesting. We predicted it the moment he started bad-mouthing Democrats exactly what it was and what his fellow Democrats would say. So that's why I continue to bring it up, because I want to give you updates on it, because I'm happy that we made that prediction. Stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number 2 after this. Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We have a lot to talk about with redistricting. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to be hearing from the cast of Big Fish. Some of the cast. I think it's actually a large cast. We'll find out about that. Comment from a viewer, just curious, how is Fetterman faring with his party? Great question. Remember, he started working with Trump a little bit, not excessively. He was still very consistently a no vote against Trump, but every once in a while he was open to conversations. He was open to meeting with Trump and people in the Trump administration. And then the reports came out of mental health. And the Democrats don't like when you stray even a little bit. They are not big fans. So I have not heard a lot about Fetterman, except for I know that he is going to release a memoir in the fall that may be interesting. But you raise a good question. It just has not been a lot in the news regarding Senator Fetterman. But back to redistricting. Governor Kathy Hochul, our governor of the great state of New York, is declaring war on Republicans over their plans in Texas proposing a new congressional map. Hochul ranted about Donald Trump and Greg Abbott, deeming the governor a co-conspirator and asserting that they both are eroding democracy and dragging us towards authoritarianism. Now that Texas and Republican states are doing at the direction of Donald Trump, I say is nothing short of a legal insurrection against our capital. Legal meaning they're using the legal process. It does not mean it's legal. It must be stopped. Oh, isn't that interesting? Because who used the legal system to thwart democracy? Who was it? Letitia James, Alvin Bragg. I think it was the California Democrat Party that tried to keep Trump off of the primary ballot. If Republicans are willing to rewrite these rules to give themselves an advantage, then they're leaving us no choice. We must do the same. There's a phrase, you have to fight fire with fire. That is a true statement of how we're feeling right now. As I've said, another overused but applicable phrase, all is fair in love and war. That's why I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible. This is a war. We are at war. That's why the gloves are off. And I say, bring it on. Democrats are leading New Yorkers into peril. Oh, this is Representative Andy Ogles, a Republican from Tennessee, saying Democrats are leading New Yorkers into peril by pushing for political war. That's how desperately Democrats crave big government tyranny and migrants replacing us. Whew. As the Texas Tribune reported, the new congressional district map in Texas targets Democrat U.S. House members in the Austin, Dallas, and Houston metro areas in South Texas. Texas Democrats did, in fact, leave the state to stop the House. As we know, Greg Abbott has called for their arrest. Hochul said that she's exploring the redistricting options. This coming from Spectrum. Congressional districts are never redrawn mid-decade. But here they are flagrantly breaking the rules so they can hold on to power. And with that power, they're going to inflict even more pain. The governor said that both Carl Hastie and Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins are on board with a plan to look into New York redistricting. We're already working on a legislative process, reviewing our legal strategy, and we'll do everything in our power to stop this brazen assault. The gloves are off, and I say bring it on. It's very difficult to say play fair when your opponents are playing dirty and using every tool in their tool shed, their toolbox, to undermine democracy, said Carl Hastie. Hochul had recently joined Gavin Newsom in expressing openness to taking up mid-decade redistricting, but state laws mandating independent commissions or blunting the ability to gerrymander would come into play. So, hey, maybe that's the ticket, folks, for 2028 for the Democrat Party. Gavin Newsom, Governor Hochul. The governor said, I'm tired of fighting this fight with my hand tied behind my back. To think we're going to do this with a purity test. The reason we're able to draw the lines is we're Democrats, and the majority of the people in this state elected us to be leaders. Republicans take over the legislature, they can have it. But until then, we're in charge, and we're sick and tired of being pushed around. What? So political, far left. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for that message. I will have to check that out. Thank you. Governor Hochul. Oh, this is the political, far left Politico saying Hochul embraces gerrymandering in New York. Governor Hochul openly embraced a full-fledged gerrymandering of congressional districts in New York to favor Democrats on Monday, making a significant shift in her push to combat similar pro-Republican changes in states like Texas. Her escalation is the political arms race to redraw the boundaries of congressional maps comes at a dramatic moment. Hochul was flanked by a delegation of 6 Texas lawmakers who fled their home state to block Republicans from pushing through their own gerrymandering. Quote, I'm tired of fighting the fight with my hand tied behind my back. With all due respect to the good government groups, politics is a political process. The redistricting skirmish in New York is one front in a much larger battle nationwide. Aside from Texas and New York, California, Ohio, and Missouri are also considering similar changes to gain a political advantage ahead of next year's midterm elections, which will determine which party controls the House. You know all about that. Hochul is increasingly being drawn into the national spotlight Not helping New York, in my opinion. Over the weekend, she publicly feuded with Ted Cruz on social media. While the redistricting effort she's pushing in New York could open the door to a new set of maps that give Democrats an edge in 22 of the state's 26 congressional districts by 2028, they won 19 of the 26 seats in 2024. The 6 Texas Democrats who stood with her Monday morning fled the state to block that quorum. Hochul's embraced changing New York's process since the fight over the Lone Star State maps escalated last month. Other Democrats have gone along as well. New York lawmakers introduced a state constitutional amendment last week that would let Democrats make mid-decade adjustments to their maps before the 2028 election cycle. Hochul's latest comments show she and state Democrats are looking to go much further, though. The amendment still would have prohibited maps drawn with the intent of disadvantaging Republicans and would have left an independent redistricting commission in place for 2023. Hochul said rules like that are relics. So this is the excuse she's been looking for to gerrymander, because they tried to do it before the courts overturned it. This is nothing new. We're sick and tired of being pushed around when other states don't have the same aspirations that we always had, said Hochul, and I hold those dear. But I cannot ignore the playing field has changed dramatically, and shame on us if we ignore that fact and cling tight to the vestiges of the past. That era is over. Donald Trump eliminated it forever. Democrat states, this is Carl Hastie, Democrat states have gone independent redistricting. It's difficult to ask New York, California, and other Democrat-leaning states to play nonpartisan while Republicans play very partisan. We're open to fighting back any way we can. So there you are. Oh, by the way, I forgot to read comments. I apologize. Did I forget to read this comment? Mark writes in, Trump did it again with redistricting Texas to get the Democrats and the media off of the Epstein files. Great point. As Texas is the new news. Keep them in the lurch, Trump. You're doing a great job. Comment from a different viewer. Would Sheriff Allard be considered for a first responder award? If so, I nominate him. Thank you for that. Comment from a different viewer, a couple different ones. Okay, cool. Thank you for that update. Someone giving me an update on Duane Eddy, and I know people have been asking this. Before we tell you what Stefanik had to say, this is a cheap way to keep you hooked, but just because that comment came in. And we're going to read all your comments when we come back from our interview with the cast members of Big Fish. But people have been asking me about the recognition of Duane Eddy, of course, Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, who passed away last year, who was born in Corning, never really getting his kind of dues here in Corning, never getting that big kind of street name after him, something, to recognize his accomplishments. Duane Eddy, the song Rebel Rouser. There's so many. Go on. We don't have time for all this, but it got me on a side tangent. People who have asked me how they can donate, how they can be a part of the festivities, which are coming up on September 20th during Harvest Fest. We're going to have an unveiling. You can find out more at corningtwang.com. You can find out where to donate, how to take part in the event. So corningtwang.com if you have any questions there. Okay, I know that was a little bit of a tangent. So Elise Stefanik, and I actually received this, and then we're going to move on from the talking about redistricting, though you can always feel free to keep weighing in on it. I'm just going to move along because we have a lot to cover and we have guests coming in. But Elise Stefanik posted this to her Facebook page, and I do want to give the Hornell Sun kudos because that's who first reported on it that I saw before I saw it on Facebook. So thank you, as always, to the Hornell Sun. If you don't check that out, I'd recommend you do on a regular basis. And if you ever think about writing op-eds or you ever want to participate in just kind of spreading the news, it's a great outlet. So coming from House Republican Leadership Chairwoman Elise Stefanik, she said, Kathy Hochul's pathetic press conference today shows she continues to put New Yorkers last, and she truly earns the title of the worst governor in America. In her own words, Kathy Hochul is hell-bent on angrily spitting the New York State Constitution, the will of the New York voters, good government groups, and the courts by dismantling fair and legal district lines. The worst governor in America needs to be reminded that she conveniently forgot to tell the unlawful, out-of-state radical Democrats at today's desperate press conference that she lost not once, but twice in her effort to illegally draw gerrymandered lines in New York to rig our congressional elections and suppress the will of the voters. New Yorkers rightfully won that fight and have fair constitutional lines as a result of that victory. We will defeat Kathy Hochul's desperate attempt to attack our election integrity for the third time, just like we will defeat Kathy Hochul and save New York once and for all next year. Ooh. Little bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge there that we will defeat Kathy Hochul and save New York once and for all next year, meaning in the gubernatorial race. Who's we? Who will be taking on that fight against Governor Hochul? But I thought that was a powerful, well-written statement by Stefanik. And speaking of Stefanik, she has introduced legislation to ban handgun rosters nationally. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik has reintroduced the Modern Firearms Safety Act in Congress, legislation that would prohibit New York and California from enacting handgun rosters that would prevent gun buyers from purchasing the newest handguns on the market. Now, we had mentioned this last week. This was just a quick update to remind you. She said, my top priority is public safety. Governor Hochul said, my top priority is public safety. And here in New York, we're laser focused on cracking down on gun violence to make our streets and communities safer. So Stefanik said, I'm proud to reintroduce the Modern Firearms Safety Act to end the unconstitutional gun-grabbing agenda thrust on law-abiding New York residents by far-left Democrats like Kathy Hochul. This legislation would ban Albany Democrats from imposing illegal handgun roster requirements meant to deter gun ownership. I will always protect American citizens' Second Amendment rights and provide a critical check to any entity attempting to encroach on their liberties. So just an update. I see a lot of comments coming in. We got a lot left to discuss. But when we come back, we're going to hear about Big Fish, an upcoming production by the Corning Penny Post Middle School Drama Club. But it's for all members of the community. It's a musical. I think you're going to find it really interesting. So that's when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio, it's cast members from Big Fish. And there you go. Hey, that's exciting. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Because this is your... Oh, wow. Pretty impressive. We're off to a great start.
We spend a lot of time together.
So this is a big week. This is what you've been working for. So thank you so much for being a part of the program during your busy time. Tell us about Big Fish for people that don't know.
All right. Well, Big Fish is about a man named Edward. We kind of go on his journey through life. Okay. And what we find out is that his son, Will, their relationship is strained, and Will doesn't quite understand Edward as much as...
Would you say almost detached?
Detached?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's almost a good word. Yes.
That may be not what you were looking for.
That wasn't what I was looking
Little
for, but it's
inside
okay.
baseball
It's
behind the scenes.
fine.
Okay.
But it is strained, and as the story progresses, we find out that Edward is sick, and it's just Will's journey with Edward to try and find out who he is before he loses his dad.
Okay. So you play Will. We know that. Who do you play?
I play Sandra. I play his mom.
Okay.
And I play young Sandra, so
okay.
the flashback version.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So what would you say each individually, what do you like the most about the musical?
I mean, first off, the music. There's so much good music in this show. I think it's hard to find a song that I don't enjoy, honestly.
Wow.
Every show I do with this group, I always am just so excited to be working with all the people who are involved. Like, you guys alone are wonderful to work with, and it's so fun. I mean, even just yesterday when we were working on our run, moments of just like laughing on stage and having a good time while we figure things out. It's a great time. I love being a part of these shows.
Do you have a favorite part?
For me, it's twofold for me. It's the music. There's something for everyone. Okay. Like I don't think we miss a genre.
There's no rap.
There's no rap.
That's the only one.
There's no opera, but the cool ones, I guess.
The ones I like.
Yes. But then also, this story is just so relatable, I think, to everybody.
Sure.
When I first heard this musical, I cried my eyes out.
Really?
So, yeah. And I don't think I've gone a night without crying once.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, I would say it's a real emotional roller coaster. And the first half is really playful and fun, and the second half becomes a lot heavier. Yeah. But in a good way. It's all about this reconciliation between my character Will and his father, especially in the light of the fact that Will is about to become a father for the first time.
Oh, okay.
And he's losing his father at the same time.
Well, it's kind of interesting because now that you say that, I almost assumed it was. I don't know why, because your shirts are so nice. It looks more like almost like a comedy, but it's not. I would.
Oh,
I guess
it's
It's very
definitely
funny.
funny.
Oh, okay.
It's very funny.
It literally, a roller coaster of emotions is definitely how to describe it.
Oh, okay.
It is, if you've seen the movie Big Fish, it's based on that.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Now.
So it's like a Tim Burton-esque kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Oh, okay.
We
Right.
don't take it to the Tim Burton extreme, but
Yeah. Well, and the character of Edward is a storyteller
Yes.
by
Yeah.
trade. He loves telling these extravagant, beautiful stories, so you really get to dive into those stories throughout the
Yeah.
show. So there's a lot of wonder as well.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is that so my character, as he's growing up, he realizes, oh, my dad he's a storyteller, yes, but he exaggerates things. That's the whole idea of the big fish, is that
Okay.
the fish was this big. No, it was this big, and each
A fish
time
tale,
he
right?
tells,
That's what
Yes.
that's what happens
Yep.
when you're
Yes.
fishing, right?
Each time he tells the tale, it gets more and more extravagant, more fantastic.
Oh, okay.
And so Will, as a young man, is growing up, and he's like, "Oh, my dad is a liar."
Okay.
And then he has to come to terms with who his dad really is and who his dad isn't.
Okay. Now, when did rehearsals begin?
we started at the beginning of June.
No.
Yes?
No, end of June.
End of June?
End of June.
It was the
It was
end
only,
of
It's
June.
only been about 5 weeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's a typical rehearsal, especially as you get this near to opening day, which is it's not a baseball game, opening performance,
Day.
August 7th. It's at 7 p.m. at the Corning Painting Post High School Theater. What does rehearsal look like right now?
Oh, man. We're looking at, Sunday we're going to have a 6-hour rehearsal.
Wow.
We'll work with the orchestra for the first time on stage, which is really exciting to start putting all those pieces
Yeah.
together. And then we'll probably do a full run, I think.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah.
From here on out, it's full runs. This week was more of just like random pieces of costumes on bodies and half hooked on wigs and like just trying to practice as much as we can with the
Yeah.
things we have. So
Yeah, working out some of the technical elements too at this point. There's a lot of moving set pieces. There's a lot of
Sure.
costume changes
really
and
fast costume
fast
changes.
costume changes, and because as the story is flashing back between present day and all of these past events, people are switching back and forth between
Decades.
decades
Yeah, right.
between the adult character and the college student character, who are the same character, but
Right.
yeah, and even so my younger son plays me
Oh,
as
okay.
a kid,
As young Will.
as young Will.
Oh, perfect.
It's
So,
really
yeah,
cool.
it's been
That's
really
really
fun
neat.
to share the stage together.
How many people are in the cast?
We have over 100 people in the
What?
cast, I
Is it really?
believe. Yes, including production crew and everything. There's
right,
over
right,
100.
yeah.
And at one point, besides the crew, we're all on stage at the beginning.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's really cool.
And you have all the members of the orchestra. Is that included in that
We
number?
sure, no, that's not. I didn't even include that. So yeah, it's over 100 definitely.
Whoa. Do you all like each other? I shouldn't ask that question.
I
don't
mean,
think
for
we-
the most
I
part.
don't think
And
we
I
know
think-
each other, honestly.
Yeah, I think that
No, like I
because
literally
it's-
just learned some people's names last
Yeah.
week.
Oh, sure, 'cause it's
because
that
like
big of a-
you just don't cross paths as much as you would, but there's just so many of them.
There's also a lot of kids.
Yeah.
There
Yeah,
are a
okay.
lot of kids, and that's what's really cool is like all of my kids are in it.
Oh, that's
The guy who plays Edward, all of his kids are in it. His wife is in it. My husband's involved. His son's involved. So it's just really fun.
Is that why it's sponsored essentially by Corning Painting Post Middle School Drama Club?
Yeah. So when Wendy started this, Wendy is our director. When she started this, she wanted to show younger kids that you can continue your acting career all through your life.
Sure.
And so it's just so fun to work with these little kids who have so much talent. Some of these, like his son. Don't get me started. But yeah.
But with that age group and its various ranges, that means there's probably people that never acted before that are in it, right?
100%.
Oh,
We
yeah?
have we actually have a lot of brand new families that I had never seen before.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. But you've all acted before, of course.
Yes.
Yes, you three. Yes. Okay. Now, what does it feel as someone who's never been in a big play like this, especially a musical with over 100 people? What does it feel like as you near? Like, what do you think the night before is going to feel like for you?
I mean,
Nervousness?
definitely nervousness and excitement.
Yes.
It's as I said, it's such a spectacle of a show that
Yeah.
it's hard not to be super excited to
Right.
dive into
Oh,
it.
Yeah.
And you talked about how this is a show that you've enjoyed for a very long time. So this is probably like a full circle moment for you.
It is a full circle moment. So
Yeah.
I've known about this show for just about a year, maybe a little bit less. I get the ins because my husband works with Wendy. But anyway,
The scoop.
so when I started listening to this show, I was like, holy cow, like I have to do this. Like the very first time I heard it, I just sobbed. And I know the guy who plays Edward, he also sobbed. But yeah, so it is full circle for me, and I know for a lot of people as well. Like it's just we've worked so hard, so we're just ready. I feel like we're just ready to be on the stage and just do it.
Oh, that's wonderful. So before we go, we should let people know where can they get tickets, how can they become involved maybe in the future with the Corning Painted Post Middle School Drama Club productions?
Yeah. So to get tickets, you can go to cppasd.com/tickets.
Okay.
They are live. They are available. But it is reserved seating, so it's not general seating. So you need to make sure you get your tickets for that. And to become involved in the future, we have a Facebook page. It's CPPMS Drama Club. That way you can be in the know all throughout the year as to what's happening in the community musical in the summer.
Great. Now you guys will each do more shows in the future. This is the last one, right?
No. This is definitely not the last
You're all
one.
hooked. Is that what it is?
We've been hooked for a while.
Well, I'm so glad that you could be on the show, and I don't ever know how to say it, but I hope everything goes well with the plan.
You can just say break a leg.
Break a leg. There we go. Well, thanks so much again. All right.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Break a leg. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Stay with us. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We have a lot of great comments to get to. But again, thanks to our friends from Big Fish for joining us in that last segment. Again, that kicks off on the 7th at 7 p.m. A performance on the 8th at 7 p.m. And then on August 9th, a matinee at 2 p.m. at the Corning Painted Post High School Theater. So appreciate them being in on the show. All right. Let's go to the Steuben Senior Services Fund section of our program where we read viewer comments. First up, Jack writes in, I was running around the yard with my 5-year-old grandson with a squirt gun. And he said he didn't want me to squirt him, but it was okay for him to squirt me. Made me laugh to see the similarities with the Democrats' methods. It's hard to ignore the very childish behavior of the Democrats with everything that they do. Yes, it's okay when we redistrict and get, like at least Stefanik reminded us, overturned twice in New York. But it's different when they do it in Texas. Comment from a different viewer. Hochul will do anything but make America, or let me try that again. Hochul will do anything but make New York great again. Like Hillary, people wish she would just go away. Comment from a different viewer. Let me think. Should I locate my business in New York or elsewhere? Maybe Texas would be a good choice. And if Hochul is so for law and order, then why is she fighting ICE? Good point. And the sanctuary cities in general. And finally, Mark writes in, the report you gave from Elise Stefanik sounds like a run for governor to me. May she do well and prevail. Thank you very much. Boy, that was, I threw it out over there, but I read her statement. And it definitely, if you read between the line, it definitely sounds like she'll be making a gubernatorial run. But remember, she said she wasn't going to make that announcement until after the November elections. So, okay. Oh, one thing from an update from yesterday's broadcast. I thought this was interesting from the New York Post editorial board. An explosive Post exclusive. Did you see the New York Post is actually going to California now, too? They're going to have a California Post. It's kind of a big story in the media yesterday. But they revealed that legal weed is fueling a wave of addiction. And it's just fresh proof of Albany's feckless legalization. Luke Nasta, president and CEO of Camelot Counseling of Staten Island, said it's one of the stupidest things our society has ever done. They legalized cannabis during the opioid crisis. Thing is, neither the legislative leaders nor Governor Andrew Cuomo, then at that point eyeing a 2020 presidential run, cared about the risks, the clear downsides, or even elementary practicality when they rammed through legalization in 2019. They let social justice obsession write the new rules, then installed a clueless crew to run the new state Office of Cannabis Management. We talked about that yesterday or the last week of how big of a failure that's been. But what this boils down to is any legalization risks bringing an avalanche of new addicts. But New York's move might as well have been timed and designed to maximize the damage. How mad does it get? Consider the nonprofit Housing Works, which runs drug treatment services and a cannabis dispensary arm. It tells its pot customers they're helping fund life-saving service that supports thousands of New Yorkers each year, except that its treatment centers on the addict-enabling harm reduction approach. Prosperity by feeding misery. That's pretty much the essence of Albany's approach to legalization. I thought that was a powerful message. Okay. Let's talk about the Democrat Party for a moment, because we've been talking this morning about their struggle with getting their messaging out. They believe that this redistricting fight will be a good way for Gavin Newsom or Governor Hochul to become the face of the resistance, therefore run in 2028, that this may bring about some type of clear message from their party. We'll see. First, to show you a little bit of what they're dealing with, did you hear about several House Democrats, including members of the Squad, criticized the U.S. over the weekend at a conference in Mexico City that questioned U.S. influence and policies? The reason I bring this up is one lawmaker said she was prouder to be Guatemalan than American. Yes, one Congress member is prouder to be Guatemalan than she is to be American. During her remarks at the opening of the event, what's her last name? Delia Ramirez spoke about the Trump administration's illegal immigration crackdown and her own ancestry. She said, "I'm a proud Guatemalan before I am an American." The Congresswoman also accused the U.S. of prioritizing imperialism, militarization, conquest, control, competition, and its attempt at domination. Ramirez, a child of immigrant parents, said her husband is in the country illegally and that she is the only congressional lawmaker, quote, in a mixed status marriage, and fights for the rights of dreamers like her husband Boris and for comprehensive immigration reform. So again, I just want to quote her. A sitting member of the U.S. House of Representatives saying, "I'm a proud Guatemalan before I am American." Does that mean as a representative, do you represent your constituents in that scenario? Then are you really looking out for the best interest of the country then in the House of Representatives? The White House said these Democrat comments are despicable and underscores their commitment to putting America last. In stark contrast, President Trump is working tirelessly to secure peace deals, deport illegal alien criminals, and advance America's interest in home and abroad. Wow. Well, there you go. I don't want to read any more of what happened there. But again, a Democrat member of Congress, well, as one person said, as Immigration Accountability Project said, well, I wonder how Representative Ramirez's constituents in Illinois feel about her loyalty being to Guatemala rather than to them. I think that's a fair point to ask. It says here, DHS administers a naturalization process during which migrants are required to declare loyalty to the U.S. Ramirez, however, did not have to take the oath because she was born in the United States after her foreign parents' illegal migration into the U.S. Wow. So there you are. Finds it more important. She's Guatemalan first, American second. By the way, Cory Booker. As I mentioned, there would be pushback about Cory Booker when he went after his own party. He knows they're doing the most that they can, being in the minority, but he still thought it would be an opportunity for him to make some news because he's coming off the heels of that. It's not even a filibuster, that long speech. So he's coming off the heels of that. He's liking the attention. He's thinking it's helping him become the face of the resistance, helping him in a 2028 run. Well, Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, a Democrat from Nevada, responded to Cory Booker's outburst on the Senate floor last week. "I don't need lectures from anyone on how to push back and fight this administration. I've been doing it since I got to the Senate because I won my Senate race in 2016 and Donald Trump won at the same time. I'm also from a swing state. I've got to get stuff done on behalf of my state." But remember, that's what Cory Booker was pushing on. He was saying, well, you can't work with them. You can't bend the knee. That's the term they all use now. It's getting kind of pathetic, to be honest. But so I don't need anybody lecturing me, but that's what Cory Booker does. Cory Booker's only looking out for himself. But Masto continued, "Why would you throw out good legislation that's going to benefit everyone across the country? That doesn't make sense. We still have a functioning government. That's part of gaining the trust of Americans again. So they understand there are people that are working on their behalf. But most importantly, we have to win. Winning means we've got to win these swing states and focus on those swing voters and what matters to them and talk to them and that we're addressing the issues they care about." But Cory Booker's not looking out for the best of your party. He's looking out for the best of Cory Booker. That's how he's been from the beginning, his whole career. We've got a little bit more to talk about when it comes to the Democrat Party. We've got a lot more to talk about, but I don't know how much we're going to be able to get to this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So Cale Thomas writes that August is usually downtime in Washington, D.C. Congress is in recess. The heat and humidity contribute to the desire to escape town for cooler weather. The president is normally somewhere else, and cable news is focused on shark attacks. Not this August. Cable news, especially along with some newspapers, seem to be fixated on the person Democrats will nominate in 2028. We're just 8 months into Trump's second term, and we are being forced to listen and read speculation about an election a political lifetime away. Part of it can be blamed on former Vice President Kamala Harris, who received headlines for announcing she is not running for governor of California, and also saying she wouldn't run for president again. Harris told Stephen Colbert on his soon-to-be-canceled Late Show the reason she will not run again, the system is broken. And as Cale Thomas points out, it's funny how Democrats claim the system is broken only when they lose. The larger part of the media's preoccupation with politics is that many can't stop thinking about tomorrow instead of living in the present. For many, politics has become a false god, like those ancient gods described in the Old Testament that could never deliver what the people claim to want. The political gods are worshipped no matter how many times they fail to keep their promises. If, as Harris claims, the system is broken, much of the reason is that we have asked the government to do what it was never created to do. Even as Trump, however imperfectly, is trying to fix it, too many voters still put too much faith where it doesn't belong. It is here that C.S. Lewis offers valuable insight. In his classic work, a demon in training named Wormwood is assigned by his... I'm not doing all that. I don't like when they always go that direction in these articles like that. But imagine if politicians began speaking in that way, telling voters, I can't do more for you than you can do for yourselves. With so many addicted to politics and the system, voters might quickly drive the career politician from office, and the ratings on cable news would drop like a stone. That's Cale Thomas. Far left rising star Jasmine Crockett. She's known for her cussing, her no-nonsense attitude, kind of ramble-on sentences. She called the President of the United States a piece of something, we'll say. I'm not going to tell you what that piece of something is. You can guess for yourself. The foul-mouthed Congresswoman's latest jabs adds to her running tally of crude insults aimed at Trump and other Republican polls. What did she call Greg Abbott? Excuse me. Who is in a wheelchair? Hot Wheels or something like that? Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of. Okay, we know that, she said. He is, she said as a crowd cheered her on. But in a functioning democracy, he still should not be able to get away with this. She accused House and Senate Republicans and the entire judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, of being complicit. They refused to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them. The 44-year-old Congresswoman's appearance at the rally comes weeks after she criticized AOC and Bernie Sanders for a rally. The nationwide rallies, headlined by the lefty pair, kind of makes people be like, oh, it's about them, right? So she doing the same thing. Crockett referred to Trump as a wannabe Hitler, a dictator. She called Greg Abbott Governor Hot Wheels. There you are. That's the rising star in the Democrat Party. Now, Nicole Russell at USA Today says Democrats have devolved into a clown show. No wonder polls show voters prefer the GOP. Are Democrats okay? They appear desperate and increasingly are becoming a clown show without direction or purpose. They need that attention. Look at Cory Booker. They all want to be the top of the heap of the resistance. Forget a tale of two cities. The vast difference between today's two major political parties is far more relevant. A recent Wall Street Journal survey shows that the Democrat Party got its lowest ratings from voters in 35 years. Despite Trump's tariffs, Republicans are still preferred on most issues. Who can blame voters? Under Biden, inflation hit a 40-year high. Russia invaded Ukraine, Hamas brutally attacked Israel, and Iran built a robust nuclear program. Then Americans learned, while he was running for re-election, that Biden suffered from serious cognitive decline, raising questions about what the Democrat Party knew and when they knew it. Americans lost trust that Democrats were transparent and honest. 9 months after Trump was re-elected, Democrats still lack direction and competent leaders. The party's brightest star, failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris, announced she won't run for governor of California. New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, once seen as a rising star, regularly engages in bizarre political theater to make his points, from lengthy filibusters to clashes with members of his own party on the Senate floor. Booker recently told Senator Amy Klobuchar not to question his motives ahead of a heated exchange about impending legislation. California Representative Eric Swalwell posted a video of himself bench pressing weights at a gym while complaining about the Republican Party. Conservatives mocked him, including Greg Gutfeld. In response, Swalwell challenged Gutfeld to a bench pressing match. Are Democrats okay? They appear desperate and increasingly are becoming a clown show without direction or purpose. The chaos and aimlessness at the national level also exists in Democrat-controlled states. In California and New York, progressive leaders ensure that residents are hurt by high tax rates and other policies that push businesses to relocate. California and New York serve a cautionary tale for much of the country. As Democrat states lose population, Florida, Texas, and other deep red states are growing rapidly. A Democrat hasn't won statewide office in Texas since 1994. Wow. And no Democrat currently holds statewide office in Florida. Developing new political talent in the second and third largest states in the nation, and in states like Indiana, Ohio, and Tennessee, is now almost impossible for Democrats, a reality that is sure to hit the party's future on the local, state, and national levels. Reapportionment after the 2030 census also is likely to be brutal for Democrats. The Brennan Center, a progressive think tank, reported that Californians would lose 4 of its 52 congressional districts in reapportionment, only the second time the Golden State has ever lost representation. New York, meanwhile, would lose 3 seats, Illinois 2 and Pennsylvania 1, leaving all 3 states with congressional delegations half the size they were in 1940. And it's not just House seats that Democrat states will shed. Red states also stand to gain more electoral college votes, which gives future Republican presidential candidates a stronger mathematical advantage. Meanwhile, Trump has accomplished more in his first 6 months than Joe Biden did in 4 years. Trump is overhauling the federal bureaucracy, reworking the global economy on more favorable terms for Americans, persuading American allies to pay more for their own defense, forcing universities to better protect Jewish students and faculty, and to finally respect conservatives on campus, safeguarding women's rights, promoting the U.S. energy sector and other industries to a remarkable degree around the world, and pushing for peace from India to Ukraine. Trump also is building a conservative political dynasty that is set to take his place after he leaves office in 2029. Vice President J.D. Vance is the GOP's most promising star. He has proved to be articulate and passionate on difficult issues in the U.S. and while representing Americans overseas. Intelligent and media savvy, Vance has most, if not all, of the positive qualities a leader needs, with few of Trump's less savory qualities. Vance is the heavy early favorite to win the GOP presidential nomination and could very well lead Republicans to political dominance for years to come. It's not only Vance, however, with a promising future. New York Republican Representative Elise Stefanik has made a name for herself, standing against anti-Semitism. She's sharp, bold, and outspoken about her values. At just 31 years old, Texas Representative Brandon Gill made headlines when he questioned NPR CEO Catherine Maurer in a hearing about her leftist political bias. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is strongly and effectively representing U.S. interests around the globe. Only 54, Rubio, a former senator and presidential candidate from Florida, is a potential Republican presidential nominee for the next 2 decades. The Republican Party is in a strong position now and could be even more dominant after Trump leaves office. Democrats, in contrast, look aimless now, and their future appears even more grim. No wonder voters are attracted to them. So that is Nicole Russell at USA Today. I thought that was a pretty interesting piece. I thought you'd like to hear that. We're running just a little bit late. We've got a couple other things on Democrats, but stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. As always, I thank you for joining us. I had mentioned Harry Enton. He's CNN's chief data analyst. And I missed this on yesterday's program, and I meant to mention it to you, but I didn't want to just ignore it. Host Kate Boldon asked, where are Democrats, though, right now, and how divided are they? Enton said, yeah, I would just say that at this particular point, Democrats at this point are historically divided. It is a complete and utter mess. It is messier than a hoarder's basement. What are we talking about here? The national early poll leader, 25% plus. Normally, that's where Democrats are. Biden was at 25% plus in 2020. Hillary Clinton was in 08 and 16. Gore was in 2000, 2004. And this particular point, there is no one in the Democrat race for president who's polling at 25% plus. The water is quite warm. If you're a Democrat potentially thinking about running in 2028, jump right in, because at this point, there is no front runner. Nobody wants to put anybody up at the top of their ballot list, because at this particular point, the Democratic brand is in the basement. This is being driven in large part by discontent with the Democrat base. The Democrat base wants something different. Will ultimately end up seeing who they choose. It will be quite the thing who ultimately gets the rose. Now, ex-ABC news reporter Terry Moran admits what we all knew, that traditional media is biased against Trump. I worked at ABC News for almost 28 years, and I'm proud to say that. A lot of good people do a lot of really good work there, and they try hard to get the story right. There are many days over there, or let me try that again. There were many days over the years where I'd watch a colleague at work, on camera, or behind the scenes, and I think that's how you do this. But were we biased? Yes. Almost inadvertently, I'd say. ABC News has the same problem so many leading cultural institutions do in America: a lack of viewpoint diversity. Since joining ABC in 1997, Moran said the network hired and promoted journalists from a wider array of backgrounds, but it did not diversify when it came to hiring pro-Trump voices, which is bound to impact coverage from what is a kind of deafness. The old news division don't hear many of the voices of the country because those voices aren't in the newsroom. Yes, news teams go out with a microphone and a camera and accost people at Trump rallies, but to me that often comes off as weirdly inaccurate, kind of like trying to understand nature by visiting a zoo. You don't really see a tiger at the zoo, just a version of a tiger. Anyway, so obviously that. Speaking of that bias, did you say Charlemagne? I know Charlemagne, that radio host, and Trump have been going back and forth a little bit. But what was interesting is Charlemagne was interviewed by Laura Trump, and that's what started the whole process of Trump getting mad with him. I'm going to tell you what he had to say. I realize I'm running late. We'll wrap up our show on that. Get your last-minute comments in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC-TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We're going to get to your viewer comments before we wrap up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. But so the Charlemagne was on Laura Trump's show, My View with Laura Trump. And he said, "Thank you, Laura Trump, for having me on My View. I enjoyed the conversation. I think it's ridiculous that The View has had 102 left-leaning guests and 0 conservatives." Did you know that? The View? 102 left-leaning guests and 0 conservatives. That is ridiculous to have a platform and only talk to people that you agree with. That makes no sense whatsoever to me. I would say the problem with that is if you go on that show and if they did invite a conservative, they're just going to yell over you. That's what makes that show so frustrating. But let's go to viewer comments, brought to you by Steuben Senior Services Fund as we wrap up today's edition. Steuben Senior Services Fund, empowering seniors to age at home. Ken writes in, how many jobs in the world would allow the following? 1, employees to actually work only about 165 days a year and pay them about $1,000 a day for that work. Paying employees for trying to convince their bosses to hire them for another term. Employees not working for the common good of the company, constantly fighting with each other, using foul language, and demonizing half of their bosses. Employees inviting unproductive people into the business, giving them some of the company's money, and refusing to let the bosses remove them. Employees deciding that they don't like the topic of the next day's meeting and leaving town for an unplanned vacation. Allow employees to use secret company information prior to its release to invest in the market. Employees forcing their bosses to pay more for energy costs so the employees can position themselves favorably in the market. Employees repeatedly lying to their bosses to benefit themselves. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I'm pretty sure a business that allowed employees to do these things listed above would quickly fail. I couldn't agree more, Ken. I think they would. I don't think the employees would last long, or the business would not last long. But that's what we're dealing with when we talk about politics. Boy, that's hard to believe. There's a scary article out, and they call it the rise of Luigiism, and that is in reference to that alleged murderer, Luigi Mangione. And they talk about how this has influenced made him into kind of I don't even know the word you'd want to call it, almost an influencer, a messiah figure. And the despicable things they said about that Blackstone employee, the senior managing director of Blackstone, Wesley LaPartner, that was killed. She was CEO of the firm's real estate income trust. That was during that shooting in New York, and how people were praising this. It's a very scary piece. It's a City Journal. But it says Wesley, the partner, wasn't murdered for her politics, her work, her health, her ethnicity, or her philanthropy. But those things led a growing contingent of nihilists to celebrate her death. That's the dark power of Luigiism. It doesn't need clear or coherent motives to inflict serious damage on the social fabric. I don't want to end on that note. Daniel McCarthy has a piece out if you have a chance later in the day. Don't whine about federal budget cuts, lefties. Put your money where your mouths are. Republicans aren't worried NPR or PBS will move further left if they court progressive billionaires. Consider what little presence conservatives had on those networks already. But if they're smart, the broadcasters will see the loss of government funding as a spur to court a wider spectrum of support and to put to the test what it means to be nonpartisan. As I mentioned, the Daily Mail says it's a surprising rival, Marco Rubio to J.D. Vance, as the next presidential candidate emerges. I was a little surprised during a recent visit to Iowa how frequently the name of Secretary of State Marco Rubio came up, often in the same breath as J.D. Vance, said one person being interviewed. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to our friends from Big Fish, the Corning Painted Post Middle School Drama Club Community Musical, which is starting on August 7th at 8 p.m., then at 7 p.m., August 7th at 7 p.m., 8th at 7 p.m., and August 9th at 2 p.m. That is at the Corning Painted Post High School Theater. We appreciate them being on the program. Thank you to everybody who joined us this morning. Thank you for all the comments, for all the waves. I think we had a blast. I know I did. I hope you did as well, and I hope that you'll tune in every weekday morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC-TV Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.